Yeah, hey, what's shaking? This is Rick Jordan. I'm just a guy that does stuff, goes on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox as a cybersecurity company going public, and I love my country.
Woo!
That's right.
Let's go. Yeah, yeah, man. It's weird. It's weird how much things are changing. Just slowly. So like on Thursday of last week, I had on Claire Lopez, who is a 20-year CIA veteran. We only spoke for 20 minutes. I had no idea what we were going to talk about, and we just kind of started shooting the shit. And we came on to like COVID being a bioweapon, its gain of function, its uniqueness as a biological virus that has some. The way I described it is, it's kind of like a make your own six-pack at a liquor store. You know,
nice.
You go pick up this, that, and the other thing. So you can get like a Bud Heavy, like a White Claw, and like a Malibu in a can or something. That's great and all. It's fun. But let's be honest. Are you ever going to find that six-pack in the nature of a liquor store? No one's going to sell that. It's ridiculous. That's kind of what COVID is with its gain of function, is its ability to do shit. It's not something you're ever going to really find. But simply enough, I have a biology degree from the University of Georgia. I got into medical school. That's the extent of my education. So I don't know anything about this, but we just talked about it. And it was banned from Facebook for claiming that COVID is a bioweapon. And that's just, to me, the eeriest thing, that you can't even have a discussion about that. And I know that you hosted a documentary, Liberty Lockdown, and it kind of it's you're putting the crosshairs on you now, because brother, I was shadow banned many times last year, and action blocked, and just everything. It was to the point where I really saw what big tech was capable of, because I was running ads for the documentary too, but I knew I was shadow banned when I saw, or rather my team saw, that my paid ads were only being shown to my existing followers. When it's supposed to have this reach, of 10x, 100x, whatever it is. But then you see even the story counts go down from several thousand to, like 50. So the views on it, I'm like, this is what's happened now at this point. Well, as you know, so I fucked around with some ads last year. Just to see how it would go, and it was more just like my own experiment. But like I had on Rob Manning, who's the head of NASA JPL, the team that just landed a rover on Mars. That's the head guy. I had him on. He's smarter than me and every guest combined. I've had him on. I've had on a guy that walked on the moon. I've had on Delta Force guys. I've had just a whole array. And so I would just kind of fuck around with I had on Mike Durant, the pilot that was shot down in Mogadishu that the movie Black Hawk Down's about. I just have on different guys, and I was just trying ads with different things. Let's see what sticks. Let's see what doesn't. And you could always, so you go into like whatever the app is for Facebook, like the business page or page manager, whatever it is, and you run your ad, say $1,000, and you see the number of impressions, the number of clicks, blah blah blah. Yeah,
all the insights.
And then you go into YouTube Studio and you see everyone coming to the page, and it doesn't match one for one, but it is like a fixed percentage. So if I hit 100 likes on Facebook, that would normally like clockwork always correspond to like 90 views on YouTube. You could pretty much. So the point is whoever it is, Delta Force or NASA, left or right, you could break it down into it's about a 90% conversion. When I started having on the Delta Force guys talking about like, hey man, the countries we've been to, like once you vote this shit in, you have to shoot yourself out, and like we know, because that's how it goes. It starts with shadow banning and it ends with decapitating the village leader. That video, I put it on Facebook, ran it for like $1,000. It got like 50,000 like views on Facebook, got about 100 on YouTube. So
that's great.
It gets a little hairy, right?
Yeah, it does. The movie itself was, right now it's only on Vimeo, my documentary, because Vimeo is the only people that would accept it. Yeah. Right now, Amazon was classifying it as hate speech.
How the fuck?
And I know, because I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, but dude, I'll send you a code. But it's crazy because it's not even laid out from a virus perspective. There's really no like conspiracy stuff in there. Yeah. I intentionally, as an executive producer, kept us out of that realm because I wanted more mass appeal.
Yeah.
And just talking about government overreach, which is really the theme of the entire thing. Not really about the virus, but about government overreach.
Yeah.
This was just a vehicle. COVID was just a vehicle for state governments to really start kind of overreaching. Yeah. And of course, we have a different federal administration now, which we'll see what happens with that. But dude, just the other day, again, I posted, because it was a Wall Street Journal article that was saying, the title or the headline was, "We'll have herd immunity by April." This was just like 3 or 4 days ago. And I was thinking, I'm like, well, no kidding. Because this is what happens with viruses. Yes. Yeah. It's just how they work.
It's the one thing I kind of think about a lot is, well, it's like what you said, and it's like liberty. And I was, because I was looking for it. I was like, oh, it's not on YouTube. And I was like, it's not on Amazon. And I was like, and finally I was like, why am I being so naive? Why did I think this was going to be on Netflix? Like, of course it's not. It's like, are you 21 or older? Because this may contain hate speech. And it's like, I'm an adult. It's fine. In high school, I grew up watching Jackass, and I'm still alive. Like, for sure. I can dictate what's good and what's not. But when you go into that, and that, you don't talk about, you're like, what is the genome of this thing? Was there transposons and changing it around? You don't go into any of that. It's like whenever I bring up like 9/11 or something, people are like, you're a conspiracy theorist. And I'm like, whether or not it was 19 terrorists, whether or not it was the CIA, whether or not it was Saudi Arabia, whether or not it was whatever.
There's still frickin' planes that hit frickin' towers.
Planes hit towers, and what was the subsequent things? There's a massive drawback of civil liberties, and we went and occupied 2 foreign nations. Regardless of how it happened, regardless if it was Pennywise the clown or whether George Washington rose from the grave and somehow crashed plane, it doesn't matter. Action A happened, and there was result B. That's all that matters. And it does matter who did it, but like, for the argument of like civil liberties, the Patriot Act, the massive jump in defense spending, occupation of foreign lands, normalization of mass surveillance, the TSA, that's what matters. So with Liberty Lockdown, it's the same thing. It's like, regardless, did this slip out of a lab? Was this intentional? Was this really just a 1 in a trillion year freak virus that got out, and hey, shit happens?
Who cares, really?
It doesn't.
I mean, that's and that's that phrase might get me in trouble, but I don't care, because the thing that I focused on with the film, as was just it was really the inconsistency of the response across all 50 states. And even in the beginning, it would have been okay, because I even tried to play the good guy in this, right? To where it's like, hey, in March, we really didn't know what was going on. Like the first 2 weeks, it's like, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody knew what this was or how virulent it was or what's going to happen. So let's kind of wait it out and see what happens. But then after that point, after really about the first 2 weeks, is just when all hell literally broke loose. And now we're seeing some of the repercussions today, thank God, with Cuomo having his legal issues now. At the beginning, it's like, we kind of portrayed him and Pritzker in Chicago, where I'm from, in Illinois, and then, of course, Newsom in California, which that dude is still way up there, too, as far as craziness. But those 3 states were the ones, and obviously they're the 3 largest Democratic states that exist. Yeah, the left leaning, not leaning, they're just hardcore in the left pool. I'm not going to pussyfoot this, man.
Yeah, it's just, left leaning. It's like, no, the leftist utopias with heroin needles and open bathrooms.
Like, for sure,
straight up what it is. But
I know it was hilarious, because even places that were in articles and media that were backing a lot of these governors for a while too, during this whole crisis, during the previous presidential administration, was starting to flip on them around January or so, after the Biden administration went in, because now it's like
they got in.
They got nobody to blame, dude.
Yeah,
for the crap that they're pulling. There's nobody to point the finger at anymore.
Yeah, I kind of talked about this last year, where it was like, because I have like a couple like left-leaning friends that I have come on here, and because they're like moderately left-leaning guys, and it's like, I've known them for 10, 15 years, and I can talk to them like an adult, but I always kind of fuck with them. I'm like, hey man, like, once I get banned from YouTube, which eventually will happen, and I'm like, you have to understand that, like, cancel culture doesn't just cancel the thing and then go, We got him.
We're done. Yeah, right.
No, it's a beast that, I mean, no pun intended, it's a virus, right? It's a virus that kills off a host and then goes to the next. It doesn't know how to do anything but kill, right? Like a landfill company is always going to look for trash. It's just period. And if there's no trash, they're going to make it. So like, I'm like, once I get canceled, well, you start with Alex Jones, right? And then they got Milo.
Yeah.
And then they got a couple more. And then they took down a sitting president, right? Now it's Rogan voluntarily left, just sweet money. And now, and not to put myself, first it goes Trump and then it goes Rogan. Of course, naturally next is Tommy. Like, no, it's not like any of these people know me. That's giving myself too much credit. It's like, hey, they've got me next now that they've taken down a president. They're like, who is that? Who's that psychopath yelling? But like, it's not. The point is, it's just the general. It'll be you'll be gone. We'll all be gone. Yeah. And then what I say to my liberal friends, I'm like, and then you, Ernie or Roger, I'm like, you, my moderate liberal friend, now when you don't think that chopping off a 4-year-old's balls is stunning and brave, and you go, maybe that's a little too much, now you're the far right. And you're going to go, and it really is cheesy. First they came for the Jews, and then they came, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Jew. And then they came for the Poles, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Pole. And then they came for me, and that there's no one left to talk. It's like a cheesy kind of like, granted, that's a very serious quote from the Holocaust, but like, it is true. First they came for Alex Jones, but I didn't say anything because I didn't believe in reptilian overlords, Yeah. And then they came for President Trump, and I didn't say anything because I didn't think that Mexicans are rapists. And then they came for Tommy, and I didn't say anything because he's kind of a douchebag. Eventually, if you're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't like mutilate toddlers' genitals and give them hormone blockers, but they're still left-leaning because they're like, maybe Medicare for all. Buddy, you're next. The target goes on you because they don't know how to do anything but cancel. I know I haven't stopped talking, man. You got to you got to throw.
No, dude, you're good. Yeah, no problem. I'll jump in.
Yeah. But that's what it is. It's you can't. But I say it all in response to what you said. Now that they don't have anyone to blame. They don't just change. They don't go.
Yeah, that's why Cuomo's getting impeached now because there's no one else to shove it off, right?
Yes.
That's why Pritzker's worried as hell about getting reelected now.
Yeah.
That's why Newsom is freaked out about getting sued from 80,000 different organizations now because there's nowhere to hide because it's like they're all on the same side, so to speak. Now the states and the federal governments and. Who else do you blame at this point? Because now everything's focused on the vaccines.
Yes.
And the rollouts. But before it was Trump was withholding vaccines or the federal plan is crap. And now it's like, well, no, you still have the stockpile of vaccines and you just don't know how to distribute it.
Yeah. Orange
Mr. Fat Guy that's sitting in the,
Orange Man bad.
Springfield. Yeah, exactly. So that was another Cuomo, man. If we can talk about him real quick, because that was one of the things we sort of brushed over it in the film a little bit, just because we weren't trying to go to the bad place.
Yeah, the facts.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the film is just straight facts. It tried to present it like it was building a case in a court of law, just throwing truth bomb after truth bomb, but not in a way to where it's beating people over the head. It's just. Here it is. We're laying it out. You can't deny it.
What you're really trying to say is it was just pure racism and white supremacy. That's.
Oh yeah. Yep. Hate speech.
That's what I got from it. Is that
I'm sure you did.
Right. It's just
totally conservative. Tea Party.
It's like what?
Oh God, no.
It's like, dude, what? I'm just pointing out some facts and shut up, racist. And you're like, fuck it,
dude. When you're watching the film, the very first interviewee that comes on is. He's an epidemiologist from UCLA, and he hates Trump so much. It's hard to see in there because he has his hair back, but we filmed this in 2020, in the summer of 2020. But you can see little bits coming out because it's like 18 inches long. He hasn't cut his hair. Well, he did now, I bet you, but he didn't cut his hair since Trump took office, since Trump won, because he hates Trump that much. So he is by far leftist, but he's on there saying, listen, the response to this whole thing was stupid because there's no way that we should tell healthy people to go hide.
Yeah.
We should have focused, and this was the point. It's like, let's focus on those that are high risk and the elderly.
Yeah.
Just like anything else under the sun, flu, any regular pneumonia, whatever. And I don't care if people say, hey, you're not compassionate. I am, because high-risk people can be in their 30s. Notice I said high-risk people, right? There was a post I made at one time. It was like, because the University of New York put this study out there too. And this was right after New York finally started calming down with the case counts. And they probably, because this was before really a lot of the political crap, Cuomo has his issues because he was sending people with COVID back to the nursing homes from the hospitals, still positive. So it was like murder, essentially. But from the perspective of the University of New York, they probably had the best counts then, because that was before all the politicians got involved in what the real counts were. And they started analyzing this stuff. And this is a study that's not in the film, but it's one that I looked up. They were looking at the highest single mortality factor was your age, period. So if you're over the age of 80, you've got like a 1 in 10 chance of dying. Your death rate is 10%.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that is legit bad,
if
you're over
terrifying.
80 years old. For sure. So you look around and even in the office here, it's like, well, that means like 2 people are dead if we're all over 80. No, without a doubt. We all get COVID, 2 people are dying, period. It's just going to happen. Sure. But then the second largest factor was obesity. Because at its heart, this is, at its core, this virus is, it's an inflammatory disease. And that's what it does with your lungs. And that's what this epidemiologist was saying. It's like we should have rallied around the elderly and the high risk. So you can be 19 years old and super obese. Are you going to die? Unlikely. But if you're maybe in your 30s or maybe in your 40s and you're 50 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight, it's hard to imagine 100 pounds overweight. But dude, I was 80 pounds overweight at one point.
Oh, dude,
80.
I'm still about 25 pounds overweight right now. I lost my brother to suicide in 2014, and I put on about 70 pounds of McDonald's and beer. It can happen. You can do it.
You got it.
Oh, it can be done. It can be done very quickly.
Yep.
But
so this study was saying if you're old or if you're fat, you're screwed.
That's what they've been telling us. That's what they've been saying as like PSAs for the last 50 years.
Exactly. And that's what I was trying to tell everybody through this whole thing. It's like, where's the focus on this? It's like, oh, let's isolate and all this. It's like, no, let's get some nutrition education going.
No, nonsense.
Turn that stupid food pyramid upside down because it's crap.
No, it's everyone go inside and be terrified, because that's what it really is it's a power grab. And it's you do kind of have to, like, right? Because it's like we said about like 9/11. It's like, it doesn't matter how it happened. I mean, like, and that might turn some people off because they're like, no, it absolutely matters. And it does. Was it the CIA or was it 19 terrorists? Was it the CIA or was it Lee Harvey Oswald? Yes, that is important. But for the sake of the argument, you only need to look at what happened and how did we respond. Was it planned or not? With this, was it a genetically engineered virus from a lab in Wuhan? I think so. But regardless, it's a virus that came out and affected the world. Now, what are the realistic repercussions? What happened post 9/11? Massive defense spending that we hadn't seen since Reagan. What really happened here? You have several major companies that all business went to. Every mom and pop store shut down. But you have things like Walmart or Amazon, or even argue like Netflix and Zoom, where they completely took over. It's a tide rising up, and it's a 6-foot tide, and everyone that's 6'1" is surviving. Everyone under is drowning, and it's like, that's
thank God I'm 6'1".
Yeah, well, I'm 5'9", so I'm done, right? So it's I'm gone, and now my podcast is gone. Everyone who's over 6'1", Rogan's dead, man. You're good. You're wiping out all the competition. Alex Jones, I imagine he's probably right. He's dead too. We're all dead.
Thank God for that 1 inch.
Exactly, man. She never said that, but that's
I
right.
know, right? Yep.
Yeah. Hey, it's cold, but like, there is a realistic effect of something like the virus, right? Where it's how else are you going to wind back? I mean, was it Dick Cheney or one of the think tanks he was involved in, the New American Century, which they wrote in I think 99 or 2000, where they said verbatim, what America needs is a new Pearl Harbor. I mean, a little odd. But regardless of whether or not that was planned or not, again, it's not the point. It's what happened right after. They took the Patriot Act right off the shelf because they had that thing primed and ready. I mean, what are we seeing with COVID? I mean, it's a complete wipe out. This is a dictator's wet dream. No one's allowed to hang out. And oh my God, that means they can only communicate over what? Technology, which means we can just censor everyone. So no one's meeting in the gym and talking in the sauna and at Walmart and at a bar being like, man, do you think the election was stolen? Do you think no one's allowed to talk about that anymore. You can only talk over a medium which a couple of companies have complete control over. It's a dictator's wet dream.
That WSJ article I was telling you about that I just posted a screenshot of it, the one that said we'll have herd immunity by April. I put a screenshot of that. I'm at like 170 something thousand followers on Instagram. I put the screenshot up there and they tag it with, for COVID-19 information, visit cdc.gov.
Oh, yeah.
They're still flagging this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not shadow banned at this point, but I'm like, that isn't even like the purpose of this. This is an op-ed from the Wall Street Journal, and it isn't even talking about scientific evidence. It's literally just spouting truth and data.
It doesn't
about how the cases are dropping all over the place. And there's only one real explanation, because the vaccine hasn't been out long enough, dude.
Yeah.
There hasn't been enough people that have gotten it yet to cause this kind of drop in numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and that's the thing is, to me, that's what just makes it seem so much more guilty, right? It'd be like if I had 3 brothers growing up, and I mean, I'm sure this happened, but if my dad were to ever to say like, hey, some of my beer's missing, like, nothing makes you look more guilty than if you were like, I didn't take it.
Yeah.
You might be like, no, I drank it last night. I was just saying I need to go get some more. But it's very weird if you're like, it wasn't me, okay? You're like, dude, no one was even saying anything, Tommy. You'd be like, if you came on and you're like, hey, Tommy, I'm Rick. It's nice to meet you. I'd be like, I didn't kill her. You'd be like, what are you talking about? I'd be like, the body was there. Dude. The body was there. I just bought the property. You'd be like, all right, man. So it's kind of weird when you just put up an episode where it's like, I had on my buddy Ernie. I have on Ernie because Ernie is a Mexican immigrant who worked in the Obama administration. We are on polar opposite ends of the political spectrum, but we went to college together and we used to drink vodka and play Mario Kart. So like adults, our friendship and our drunken debauchery supersedes our political beliefs.
Of course, always.
Yeah, and he came on and we were talking about because he still lives in Georgia, which is where I went to school with him. And he's like, yeah, man, they're pulling down Confederate statues. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And we because there was a lot of them where we grew up. And we ended up talking about COVID. And it's just for shits. And Ernie is a political science major. He's not. So I just put in the title, COVID and Confederacy. That was the topic.
Yep.
Flagged. Big disclaimer right below it. COVID-19 and it's like, dude, it's again, the whole, I didn't kill her. When you just throw out the name COVID as like, it's part of like, alliteration for the title, COVID Confederacy, and they're like, COVID is not a bioweapon, and you're like, we weren't even getting to that, man. So it's very weird. It's very weird.
That was the exact tone of the film, dude.
Yeah.
It's like we didn't even say that this thing was deadly or how many people it's really killing. I mean, we're just coming out and saying, hey, can the governors really do this stuff?
And they're like, it wasn't a bioweapon, and China didn't help plan the theft of the election. And you're like, what?
Yep. Cool. Well, I'm glad you can talk about that. That's cool. But, I'm going to go back to my film over here.
Back to my film. It's just like, I had on Jefferson Morley, an author. Very smart. Again, he's a super liberal guy. I'm not. And it's cool because, like adults, I was like, hey, I just want to talk. He's a badass author. He wrote about James Jesus Angleton, the head of counterintelligence in the CIA for, I believe, 17 years. James Jesus Angleton was so secretive that when he was fired from the CIA, they went in to try to look at what he did, and no one actually knew what he was doing for 20 years. He's a weird guy. He opened up a file on Lee Harvey Oswald in 1959. 4 years prior. A little weird. When later asked, did the agency have anything to do with Kennedy's death, he said, paraphrasing, the agency is a big mansion and I'm not aware of every room. Which, why wouldn't you just say no?
No, yeah.
No. Instead, it's like, the CIA is a complex group of men who have the skills to do things. And it's like, please just say no?
Oh, that's like the precursor to Liam Neeson, dude.
I know, right? It's literally like,
I have a particular set of skills.
Yeah, it's like, Liam, just, the judge is like, did you kill them? Liam's like, just, his lawyer's just like, Liam, just say no. And he's like, I have a particular set of skills, and I worked in subterfuge for decades. And they're like, God damn it. Just, damn,
Yep.
It's like saying Dick Cheney 9/11 was done by terrorists, right? You didn't gain any money from it. And he's like, I was the CEO of Halliburton for a decade. And you're like, dude, just dodge the question. Right, we only made $40 billion in profit off the invasion of Iraq. And you're like, fuck. Right? So I had on Jefferson Morley, and we just talked about whatever. It goes up. Big plaster right there. John F. Kennedy was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. There are far right-wing conspiracies, and it's like, dude, JFK is not even like my guilty pleasure with conspiracies. It's fun and all, but it's like I have a different taste. But it's weird how they start to tag things with that. I had on. Do you remember what rooftop Koreans were? The 1992 LA riots.
Yes.
Rooftop Koreans, right? Where it's all the guys. Yeah. Well, I tracked one down. His name's Tony Moon. He's like 50 now, and I had him on my podcast just to shoot the shit. It was because someone took video of the rooftop Koreans, and then they overlaid it with like the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas music. And it was just
sick.
It was badass, man. I'll send it to you. They did the same animation and stuff, and they had like the same font, and it was like rooftop Koreans, and it's like they're standing up there.
Watch this now, dude.
It's amazing. Well, I went on there, and I was just because I love Grand Theft Auto, and and I saw one of the comments was like, "Man, I was 18 during that. Like my father was like a first generation immigrant from Korea, and he saw like countries go south when he lived there." So he made me and my brother go on like a patrol. He's like, I was 18. He's like, they handed me like a Beretta and like a Remington shotgun, and we had to go on patrol to protect our like father's stores. And I think his cousin was actually killed.
Wow.
Like some gangbanger came up at like point blank and shot his cousin in the head or something. But I was like, that's insane. And so I just went to like the user on YouTube and like went to it and found him, and he had like an email. So I just emailed. This was like 6 months ago. And he's like a real estate agent now in LA, and I was like,
what?
Oh, yeah, I was like, hey,
good for him.
Yeah,
straightened out.
Yeah, exactly, right. He was like, so I emailed them, and I was like, this is gonna be very weird. But I was like,
yeah, no kidding.
I was like, first of all, I was like, before we even start, I was like, is the term rooftop Korean like demeaning? And he was like, no, man. And I was like, awesome. Second question. Would you like to do my podcast? And he was like, sure, man. And so he came on. We talked to him. He's like super clean cut guy. He's like, can we watch the language?
Yeah,
he's like very active in my church. And I'm like, absolutely. And we talked about it. And so he eventually like changed his like Twitter handle to like rooftop Korean. Now he's got like tens of thousands of followers. He has far more than I do. But the point is he came on and we talked about that. And well, he started going around in like January, maybe December of 2020, and was like posting videos of like restaurants where he lived in LA, and they were just straight up defying like the mask orders, and they were just they were just paying the daily fines. They just didn't care, and their business was fine. They kept the revenue coming in. They just, when you walked in, you had to like sign a waiver. You're like, yeah, I might get a virus.
That's like Disney or Universal, man. My kids are 13, and 11. I have twins that are the oldest two, but they're all pretty astute. I even got to bring my oldest son along with filming last year. Mm-hmm. And he wants to get into filmmaking. So he was 12 at the time. He was carrying just a mirrorless around, with a 50 millimeter. He loves getting into all that stuff. And I only know what that stuff is because of him, for real. Otherwise, I'm in front of the camera. I'm the guy behind the scenes paying for everything. That's just how it goes. I don't film. That's not me. But then, but in the middle of the very first place that we went was San Francisco. And standing in the middle of Union Square, I don't know if you've ever been to San Francisco, dude, but Union Square is like the epitome of affluence in that city because it's a tech hub. There's a lot of money that exists there, a lot of venture capitalists, a lot of angel investors, a lot of seed funding. And so you've got the Apple store, of course, but then you've got Saks Fifth Avenue and Tiffany's and all these other high-end stores in this 1 block radius in this central square area called Union Square. And we're standing in the middle of the road my 12-year-old son and I just looking around. Dude, there's no cars. There's no people. Saks Fifth Avenue is boarded up. Jeez. Apple Store is boarded up. Yeah, and you just see the sun overhead, but then I start thinking back to, like The Walking Dead, because that's exactly what it felt like, was standing in the middle of the city. Like, civilization was gone. Yeah. Done. And my son was able to see it. Thank God we were able to find a burger place that was doing curbside. And even curbside at that point in San Francisco was literal curbside. You could not go in the restaurant. You couldn't even stand by the door outside of the restaurant. You had to go stand on the curb 10 feet away from the front door, and they had to bring the food out to you.
I mean, it's absurd. Yeah. And you have to start to question, like, what is behind it. And to me, it's even more odd when they say you can't question it. Don't talk about it. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm like, man, if you really want to pull off a conspiracy, if I stole the 2020 election and or released a pandemic, I would let everyone talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I would too.
The fact that Bob Lazar is still alive, the guy that supposedly saw UFOs at Area 51.
Oh, I know.
To me, that's the biggest defense that it didn't happen because they haven't killed him. I personally think he did, but for the sake of the argument, it's like, if these people were in charge, they would have killed Bob Lazar on day one. It would have been like, no, you jackasses, let him go out and talk. Don't say
you got it.
It's very odd.
It distracts from the attention on them. Mm-hmm. That's old, like, CIA tricks.
Yeah. The term conspiracy theorist was coined by the CIA, and that's not a conspiracy. Like,
exactly.
It's to make people look crazy, because they found that above all else, regardless of security clearance, whether you're James Jesus Angleton or whether you're Bob in Vietnam, the one common trait is people don't like being ostracized and to be made to feel like they're goofy. So
right on.
If someone goes, hey, I saw a UFO, and everyone's like, hey, did you hear what Bob said? To me, there's a bigger, I would be more scared of just, not anymore, because I've just gone off the deep end now with just not caring. But I mean, in college.
That's good. Dude, I saw a bio of yours beforehand it's had like tinfoil hat wearing, and it was pretty great. I'm like, we're going to have a fun show.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I love that shit. But like, to me, the greater effect to get me to shut up, it wouldn't be men in black coming to my house and knocking on my door and being like, Mr. Carey, you're discussing some top secret weapon systems out in Nevada. You need to stop. That's not what's going to stop me. I'm going to be like, oh, shit. What's really going to stop me is if I say that and people start giving me the weird eye and girls don't text me.
Yeah, right on. Yep.
That's what's going to stop me, is human nature. I'm like, oh, shit. I can't do this anymore. But it's odd because, I mean, for instance, Tony Moon, right? So I had on Tony Moon a second time, and we just talked about the stealing of the election. I'm like, that's what I watched. I watched it on this TV. I watched the election, pause in the middle of the night, and go back. And as for everyone's, you're just a Trump tard, dude. I voted for Obama when I was 18. I voted for Romney in 2012 when I was pre-med. I voted for Bernie in the primaries after my brother committed suicide, because I was like, maybe we do need access to mental health care for all. And I voted for Trump in 2020. My mind molds and changes. I'm not lockstep one way. So,
isn't that supposed to be how it is, though?
Yeah,
and that's the point of truth, right?
Yeah,
because you have a story that's true until your environment changes.
Yes,
and then that story is untrue now, so you have to make a new story.
Yeah,
that goes along with the new environment.
Yeah, when I was
all this stuff back from 20 years ago, politics or everything else, it's not the same society. It's not the same culture. Truth is different now than what it was back then.
Yeah.
And there's even, you're talking about JFK. I mean, even though right now I would identify with the Republican Party, I take a look at the ideals of the Democrats back in the 60s. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. Dude.
Back then, all the Republicans were white trash, racist KKK members.
Yeah.
Religious overlords.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's not me.
No, not at all. It's, dude, my mom's father, who passed away in 2010, was as far-right Republican as you can get. He voted for JFK.
Yeah.
Because he was, so it's not even like if I went back in time, I'd probably vote for him. This far-right attended mass every day at a Catholic church for 8 decades. This guy voted for JFK because he was like, hey, man, hey, I like what he's saying. Right?
Right on. I happen to think that Clinton was a good president.
Yeah, hey, he balanced the budget, like it or not.
Yep.
Bill Clinton,
right on.
Yeah, he challenged. He's not a good person. I've had on Juanita Broaddrick on this podcast. He raped Juanita Broaddrick. That's a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
Not a terrible president, and that's a horrible thing to say. But to just be detached from it.
Yeah.
Look, it is what it is. And it's so I say all that to say, so when I watch this and I go, hey, I think the election was just stolen. I just watched it, right? I was only 11 on 9/11, so I was in school. I don't really remember it. I just remember my mom crying. But the one thing I've heard again and again is when the second plane hit, then everyone was like, oh shit.
Yeah, dude.
When I was watching at 4 a.m, when I watched Trump give his just I won speech at 2 a.m. And then I watched all my liberal friends going, fuck, he did it again, he won. And then I saw, right before I went to bed, it was and they're going to stop counting in Michigan. And I was like, I was like, it's probably going to be some COVID shit. And then it was like, breaking, they're going to stop counting in Georgia and Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And that's when I was
second plane.
It was the second plane. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, this is how it's happening.
Yeah, same thing. I knew it was done. And that's where that phrase, nail in the coffin, comes from, right?
Yeah.
Because you can kill somebody, but to make sure that they're dead, you have to seal it.
And it was
that was the second plane.
Yeah, as you're just watching, you're like, this isn't an accident.
Yeah.
Whatever the point is, and personally, I do think it was stolen, and it's but we are here today on February 23rd. So the point is, the discussion now is, so I had on Tony Moon, and we were like, yeah, man, it seems like the election was stolen, and he was like, yeah, man, I'm going to go to DC on the 6th. I was like, oh, cool, so am I, and so again, I just made a funny title. I was like, hey, we're bringing I think I said rooftop Koreans are going to stop the steal. Because I was thinking the LA riots, stop people looting your store. So I was
That's great.
I was like, who's going to stop the steal? I was like, the rooftop Koreans. That was episode 291. This is episode 368. So it was a while. It was I can't do math. But it was some episodes ago. As of yesterday, February 22nd, episode 291 was banned by YouTube. It was taken down, and it was you are not allowed to discuss, I think, of quote, far-right conspiracy theorists alluding that there is mass voter fraud in the 2020 presidential election.
Wow. They are literally verbatim making it a partisan issue.
Let me pull it up. Maybe they've changed it since then. I posted a video of it. So I screenshotted it. I screen recorded the email, and then I uploaded it to my channel.
Dude. It's back to that. You should say less, because if big tech doesn't want to get in trouble, why would they ever put far right conspiracy? You can say just you're talking about conspiracy theories rather than saying far right conspiracy theories.
But that just
gives them away.
It does. It's every time they just say far right, and you're like, dude, you're just making shit up now. You're just making shit up now, right? It's absurd. It's just,
why don't we talk about far left conspiracy theories, like Trump is best friends with Putin? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's stunning and brave, right? It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you say that. That's beautiful. That's what I was kind of thinking of. Clearly I'm incorrect. I thought by having on, I was like, if I say stop the steal, but I have it with a rooftop Korean, I was like, they can't take me down because now they'll be racist for taking down. Nope, they did it. They had no problem doing it. I was thinking more and more. What I need to do is get I need to get like a black transsexual friend.
There you go. Cover everything. Can you cover all the letters?
It'd have to be, sex change, gender fluid. They'd have to be in a wheelchair, convert from Catholicism to Islam, and then they have to wear a Me Too shirt. And if they come on and then they start talking about the election was stolen on the night of November 3rd with rats and shit, I would just be like, come on, try to do it, right? It's a lot, right? It's like terrorists and, third world countries, right? They put kids around them, and that's how they carry their weapons. I've had on Delta Force guys talking, they're you'll see someone walking around with an RPG, but they'll be surrounded by kids.
Yep.
And it's just exactly they can't hit them. Funny enough, though, the Delta Force guys are well, that's why we train a lot, so we have a good shot. Dale's like, Dale Comstock's like, don't worry, I still hit him. He's like, you just have to aim a little high. And it's like, fuck yeah. these guys don't give a shit. It's like, yeah, man, I love the way he says it too. He's like, I love shooting him right in the face. And I'm like, Jesus, that's hard.
Lord.
That is hardcore.
Yeah, no kidding.
Hard. I'm like, I love America. I yell on YouTube. Dale's like, I've been deployed to 97 countries, and I'm like, Jesus Christ in heaven. But point is it's kind of the same thing, right? Maybe I just need to fight far left, like fashion or your dictatorship, the same way that terrorists fight. How do you fight a superior enemy? Surround yourself with kids. Yeah. Maybe I just need to bring on all of the like oppressed Olympics groups.
Yeah,
and then just have
like a children's choir or something like that. Yeah, right.
And just have them read talking points.
For sure.
Just have them read.
Well, if it's a choir, you can have them sing the talking points, and then how are they going to ban that?
Yeah, it's. I want
a multiracial kids choir.
Yeah, multiracial kids choir. I thought about doing things like subtly, like it's like another thing that like never gets it's like the Epstein cover up, like largely like the biggest like political scandal of our lifetimes. It's, if you could argue 9/11 was in our lifetime, maybe 2008 it was was that
it's almost 20 years now, man.
At least of the decade, right? You could say Epstein. I had this idea I haven't read the book, but I know I need to. I know it's a classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So every once in a while, if I can't get an author on, because a lot of them are like, this kid's a psycho, I'll just read their book anyway, and then I'll just I call it a solo rant, and it's where I get in and just start talking about the book. But I mean, there are a lot of books I just love, man. I mean, all about the Cold War, nuclear bunkers, continuity of government, contingency plans, the strategic air command, nuclear weapons, ICBMs. It's all, I love that stuff. And if I can't get the author, I just screw it. I just start talking about it. But, so... Fuck, I forgot where I was going with that. What were we talking about? Epstein. Yeah. You're just like, I don't know what you're talking about, Tommy.
Dude, I started thinking about Hamilton because my kids are super into Hamilton now, which is a fantastic musical, and it's pretty historically accurate, too.
Hell yeah.
And I just the brilliance, because you're talking about continuity of government, but the financial system that was put into place in this country just was freaking amazing. I
honestly need to learn more about that. That's one rabbit hole I haven't gone down.
Dude, it's incredible, and it's just the intricacies of everything and how debt is used as a vehicle to catalyst the economy.
Yeah,
and which is actually good business sense, in a lot of ways. Because with my IPO this year, dude, I'm taking on a lot of debt. I'm millions and millions of dollars in debt to acquire other cybersecurity agencies, but it cash flows out in like 18 months. So in 18 months, everything's in the positive. But the only way to continuously grow and cause more flow of money is to take on more debt. So remember, like I was saying, it's like the Democratic Party of old. It makes business sense. And that's actually even what they're doing right now with another COVID relief bill. That's what Trump was doing, was more spending, which is what traditionally Democratic is what Trump was doing with going into more debt, right? But where did he come from, dude? He came from a business world.
Yeah. It's dude, if continuity of government, I actually finally did get the author on, Garrett Graff. It took me like 9 months.
Nice.
I was calling this guy. He had the best-selling book on Audible in 2019. It was this book,
awesome,
Raven Rock, and it's all about nuclear bunkers from FDR through Obama. Dude, if you want a book to melt your mind, it's that.
I'm in.
Yeah, you'll realize just how much none of them actually care. There are bunkers for about 1,000 most important people in the United States. The rest of us are just fried, cooked. But
at least I'm 6'1".
Yeah. No, man, you're done with that. This wave.
This doesn't matter. No, this is 6'2" and up, right?
Yeah, this is 6'2" and up. Well, it's like what Eisenhower said about it. He was like, some of these Soviet subs are like, they're 60. I think they did the math. They could get so close to DC that it would be, it was 360 seconds. Yeah, 6 minutes from launch, SLBM, submarine launched ballistic missile, until detonation. Normally we'd say about 30 minutes with ICBMs. It's about 9 hours with bombers. 360 seconds from these submarines off the coast of DC till uninhabited nuclear wasteland. And that's what Eisenhower saw. And he would be like, people are going to be going insane. He was like, this isn't war. This is, we could be having breakfast, and by lunch we could be in the Stone Age. But that's a whole, I'll send you that book. It's called Raven Rock by Garrett M. Graff, Graff.
That's awesome.
Point is, is before I got him on, I just talked about his book. And that's actually how I got him on. I talked about the book Stealth War, China's War on the United States by Brigadier General Robert Spalding, who worked in Obama's National Security Council. I did that, and then I emailed it to his secretary, and I got him on. That was cool.
Yeah, right on.
So I had this idea to read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I just wanted to discuss the book, just that, all about, not going into the obvious things like blackmail, but just discuss that book. But I wanted to do it. I wanted to go get like a desk, get like a boat, and go out to Epstein's Island, and like do it on like the shore, and just have his temple in the background. Never once address Epstein's Island, but just talk about how to win friends and influence people, and just talk about geopolitics, and be like the importance of establishing friendships and treaties, and all the while just have the pedophile temple.
Right on. That's great.
Never fucking address it. Just right. It'd be like if you shot the film Liberty Lockdown. It'd be like if you shot it in Wuhan, but never said a word about it. It was just I was like, I want to do something like that. Just put it right there. Never address it. Never say a word about it. But yeah, man, there are weird things like that though. They're verboten. You just can't talk about it. And it's if you can't tell how I do this podcast, there's no topic. It's just all off the rails.
Good.
But yeah, fuck yeah.
Good.
Yeah. But that's I don't know, man. And there are very real things. I mean, I know you've talked about it with like human trafficking, right?
Yeah, man.
Human trafficking went up 40% in 2020.
It sure did.
Like, that's something that does not get brought up at all. Like, we're all hurting. We all need stimulus checks. Like, suicide rates are up. Human trafficking is up, not 4%, 40%.
40%, you got it.
Of a $150 billion annually business operation market. That's not pocket change.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah.
It's not at all. And that's the part when we talk about the human side of things, man. That's what gets me going the most. Because when somebody crosses that line, I don't care really if they have mental illness, because they don't, because at that point in time, it's a choice.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're highly functioning individuals that traffic other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back. I mean, this even coming back to Hamilton, right? Because they were looking to abolish slavery.
Mm-hmm.
It was never really abolished. In the United States, it was never really abolished.
Mm-hmm.
But it just went underground, literally, in a lot of cases, underground. I've talked about the tunnels in Vegas, man. Mm-hmm. That's a trafficking spot. That's where kids are delivered down there. Not where they pay for them. The dark web is where they're paid for.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the transaction takes place. But with the dark web, there still has to be delivery of the goods, if you want to call it goods, of the product.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens in the tunnels in Vegas. Prior to COVID, because of the Super Bowl, but Vegas still used to be, on Super Bowl weekend, the biggest hotspot for child trafficking. Yeah. And last year, before COVID, I don't know what the numbers were this year, just a couple weeks ago, but last year there were 2,000 kids that just went missing in Vegas on Super Bowl weekend.
And
they found like 120.
And you never see that in the news. You
got it.
When it's like 200,000 kids went missing in a year, that just doesn't get brought up. And it's and
not in a year. That was in like 2 days.
Yeah,
that was just over.
No. I'm talking about yeah.
But 2,000 kids in 2 days.
And it's, again, there's this whole thing with like Orange Man bad, where, I mean, Rogan says this all the time. He was like, there's this problem where if Trump does something, like, no one can give it credit. It has to be Orange bad. Like, and that's like my own cognitive dissonance I have to overcome with like someone that I don't like, Biden. Like, I have to give credit where credit's due. If he does something, I have to go, that's good. That's objectively good. Like, I have to take my head out of my ass and be like, that's good. This is weird because I don't think he's a duly elected president. I think they stole it and it was a weird communist takeover, so maybe that's an exception. Okay, I'll give Obama credit where credit's due. Before Obama, when someone lost their son or daughter overseas dying for America, the body would come back to Dover Air Force Base. Until the Obama administration, the family of the deceased had to pay for their flight, had to pay for to go to Dover. They had to pay for their own flight and get their own hotel to pick up the dead body. Under the Obama administration, they changed that to where Uncle Sam picked up the tab.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give credit where credit's due. That's an objectively good thing, right?
There really is.
And not a lot of people know that. Not World War II, not Korea, not Vietnam, not Desert Storm, not the War on Terror, not until 2008-9. All right, so there's credit where credit's due. But there's this thing where it's like, Trump's banning flights from China in January, and everyone's saying it was racist. What did Nancy Pelosi say? Go hug a Chinaman or something.
Yeah.
No one can, hydroxychloroquine or using UV light. Like, that's now coming out as like an actual way to fight this, but no one can say it because Orange man bad. You just can't. Yep. You just can't say it. So,
but it's okay that Biden says that even U.S. citizens can't get back into the U.S. now without a negative COVID test. That's okay.
But it's stunning and brave. It's progress. It's LGBTQ. Yeah. Shut up, bigot. That's what it is. Yep. It's just shut up. They just bludgeon you with it.
Yeah.
You're like, hey man, what about this? I feel like this isn't, and they're like, look at this white guy, and you're like, that's racist, but like it doesn't matter, right? That's one thing I always say, man. The whole point of that rant was, but the amount of human trafficking that the Trump administration stopped, and that's not an opinion, that's not a fantasy, that's an objective fact. The amount of human trafficking rings that they busted surpassed the previous two administrations combined. What he did in 4 years surpassed what happened in 16 years. That's an objectively good thing that doesn't get brought up.
Yeah.
It's infuriating, but take it on a less serious note. That's someone made this it's like a plugin you can download for whatever browser you use. But what it does is when it's like for news sites, every time it says the word white, it'll actually replace it with black or Jew.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yep.
Yeah, black or Jew, and it allows you to look at the news differently. So when it's like uneducated white men are ruining America, all of a sudden, and it says uneducated Jews, God. And you go, whoa, and then you catch yourself. You go, oh, this is just the plug-in, and then you go, wait, why was I so okay with it when I just said white people?
Yeah.
But then, when it's like blacks own too many guns, and you're like, what the fuck? And you're like, oh yeah, no, it was just whites. Yeah. But it's like that weird moment of like cognitive dissonance where you're like, well, why is it okay to say whites? But
I remember Chappelle's stand-up show, and he's like, I hate guns. I own 3.
Yeah. It was. What about Patrice O'Neill when he was like America's school shootings are actually like our biggest I'm paraphrasing, but he's like they're actually like our biggest defense asset. He was like, that's a controversial take.
Yep, a bit.
Got to tread really lightly here. We're walking on some very thin ice.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Right? But he was like, think about it. We'll have kids go to schools, shoot up children, and we will refuse to give up a single weapon. What that shows other nations is that we are willing to kill ourselves indiscriminately, so don't fuck around with us. That's how other nations go, man, they really have no regard for human life over there in America. They're the last country I'm going to start a war with. He was like, hear me out. He was like, it's a strong... So shit, man, if you're like, yo, they will literally slaughter their middle schoolers. What are they gonna do to us? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's got to have that effect, though. It's what you were saying about debt is but don't let me keep. Is it? Did you say an hour? An hour 15?
Yeah, you're good, man.
Okay,
I got another 20 or so. Yeah.
Like I said, I keep people verbally hostage.
Do it.
If you can't tell. I've actually had kind of my own argument, and I talked about this with an author last week, Michael Swanson, author of The War State, a really good book about the military-industrial complex from Eisenhower through like JFK, and then it kind of goes into the present day. But it was the argument that we're racking up this debt, $27 trillion in debt now. Mm-hmm. Our biggest defense, or our biggest portion of the budget each year is defense. Well, I was thinking like, if I got money from a loan shark, right? And he's got his goons, right? And if I don't pay up, they're gonna like scalp me. Well, if I got $10,000 from a loan shark down the road, and I know there's a 900% interest rate, I'm screwed if I can't pay that back, unless I take that loan and then I contact the Delta Force guys I've interviewed, and I go, hey, I'll double your salary if you come protect me.
Yeah.
How is that loan shark going to collect the money? He's going to send his goons. I have my trained killers, right? I have my SEAL Team 6. So I've been thinking more and more about the $27 trillion debt. Is it not actually the most brilliant move? Have we built a $27 trillion army? Who's going to collect the tab?
Yeah, it is in a lot of ways, because the irony of this is that most of it's borrowed from China, which to me makes no freaking sense whatsoever, not even just from the U.S. perspective. I'm saying from the Chinese perspective, unless they have, of course, they have some calculated strategy in it. But why would you loan money to your enemy if you know you're not going to get it back?
Well, and I used to first look at it. I was like, why are we letting China own our debt? I was like, they're going to collect the tab, and then America's going to collapse. And I started looking at it from the terms of real politics, right? It's like the Dark Knight Rises, right? When Bane goes up to him and he's like, I've given you a small fortune, and Bane's like, does that give you power over me? And it's like, the reality is like, you gave me a bunch of digits on a screen, but here's Bane, and he's going to break your neck. And all of a sudden you realize how much of it was an illusion, right? It's, everyone can say that's illegal, but it's like, who has the tanks and who has the guns?
Yep.
How is... does China, it's like Bane, it's like, China, do you feel powerful? We own $27 trillion in debt. Man, we've got 16 aircraft carriers.
Yeah, right.
We just started a space force, man. Like, we've still got our Cold War nukes left over. The biggest air force in the world is the United States Air Force. The second biggest air force in the world is the United States Navy Air Wing.
We could probably convince your neighbor to hate you for at least 10 minutes just to push the button.
Oh, we could do, yeah. We could. Yeah, India, 1.1 billion. Like, you guys want to become buddy with us? It's like,
right on. Which is also a nuclear country.
Which is exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where I think is the debt not the strongest thing that we could do? Borrow money from everyone.
I think it is. Yeah. There was some analysts a while back. I look into a lot of the financial stuff too. And at the time when the COVID relief bill came a year ago, they were talking about the percentage of debt compared to the GDP, the gross domestic product. And it was going to take us from like 87% ratio up to 89% or something like that. And these analysts were coming out and saying, it's okay. It's all good because we still got another 2% to go till 91%. Then we're really screwed. So we still have room to breathe. It's okay that Congress raised the debt ceiling again because we still got room to breathe. But if we get past, and this I don't understand, but they're like, if we get past 91% of debt to gross domestic product ratio, then we're done.
Then it's over.
Yeah. But they don't say why. In this article, they never said why.
That's you, right? That's the 6-foot wave coming. And you go, we're good. We're good. Now, if it goes up an inch, I'm dead. My life is over. I can't provide for my family. But until then, it's Gucci. It's gravy. Yep. It's just like, up until that moment, it's like, we're just right. 2% more. End of the world. Reserve currencies collapsed, and there's a power vacuum. But that's still 2% away, baby. So it's hey.
But look at coming out. We talk about finance and debt again, going back to like the New Deal, right?
Yeah.
What was that? It was a spending plan.
Uh-huh.
What was World War II? World War II was a debt and spending plan.
Oh,
and it pulled us out of the Great Depression.
Oh, World War II is the best. World War II is the best stimulus package we've ever had. It's like, yeah, it's I almost feel myself like going to the dark side. Like after reading that book, War State, I now look at it and it's like his whole book is like the argument against. He's like, now it's like, Eisenhower's beware of the military industrial complex. It's in every courthouse. Beware of unwarranted influence by the blah blah blah. Where so many Americans now make money working at defense contractors and working at their subsidiaries and everything. To where it's like what Tim Dillon, the comedian, said. And he was like, Tim Dillon's like, I sold subprime mortgages for a decade. It's all a scam. And he goes, you know what America's built on? It's built on scams. It's built on young guys from Long Island selling things to elderly people with dementia. And that's how the nation keeps on rolling. Because it's been happening every decade.
Wolf of Wall Street much?
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, and you know what we need right now? War with China. He goes, we need a good one. We need a good, brutal war. Land war, not nuclear weapons. We need a land war with a lot of replaceable pieces. That might be it, man.
Dude, I'm gonna crush all the conspiracy theorists here a little bit too, because it's just with the vaccines. What's the vaccine? It's a freaking spending and debt program.
Yeah.
But what does it also do, right? It gets people out of their homes again, because now we have to go to vaccine centers to get these freaking vaccines.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this and it's like, am I going to take the vaccine? And I've come to the conclusion that it's a no, unless I need to travel internationally, which I was just even in Canada just a month ago. I was able to get across, thank God, and able to get back even better. Woo. But I know, winning. Small victories, bud. Small victories.
You got to take them, man. Not every victory is D-Day. Sometimes you just find a heads-up quarter.
Exactly. But I'm not going to take it because I don't need it, because I'm healthy, I'm fit, I eat right. I probably have had COVID like 17 times already. Who knows? But it's like, I think I had that for like 2 hours. Yeah, but that's what it is for most of everybody, you know, because again, it's back to LG and obese. But the vaccine, dude, it's a spending and debt program. So from that perspective, I'm like, awesome. It gets money moving, and it gets people out of their homes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me that's the greatest argument that it's a Chinese bioweapon. It's because, I mean, when you look at another great book, The 100-Year Marathon by Michael Pillsbury, who was the Deputy Secretary of Defense under Reagan, wrote all about Chinese doctrine, unrestricted warfare, their whole philosophy on this thing called the Warring States period from their history. Don't ask the way to the Emperor's cauldron, all these weird Chinese sayings. But what it comes down to is nothing can be left off the table when you're fighting an enemy. And whereas we we kind of saw America go all out during the Cold War, right, where we were facing an equal enemy. Mm-hmm. You have to take it even another step further when you're facing a greater enemy. You have to be even more ruthless, which we saw in World War II, firebombing Dresden, nuking Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's like you got to just turn it up to 11. So with China looking at us, and in the Chinese, well, I didn't know this, is in Chinese politics, they don't look at them as being behind America and they have to overtake us. They look at us as a momentary, we've momentarily pulled ahead, because China's so old that they're like, this is just a phase. America's just a phase, and they want to squash us. But the point is their whole thing is unrestricted warfare. They know they can't fight us with tanks and with aircraft carriers. So they fight us with bribing politicians, with Chinese knockoffs, with using our laws against ourselves. To me, I don't think it's at all. I mean, it's terrible, but from just a purely an objective strategy standpoint, what other way would you fight America? You release a virus.
There is no other way.
You'd release a virus that takes up the economy that powers the war machine, right? It's in World War II when we were really going into Germany, and we realized we couldn't destroy every tank, and we couldn't destroy every dive bomber. When we found there was about 5 factories that built all of them. And so instead of taking out tens of thousands of tanks, we were like, yo, what if we just hit these 5 factories? Yep. But then there was this area in Silesia where it was the main power plant that went to all 5 factories. So finally someone was like, just bomb the power.
Just do this.
And they did it. And like a month later, we were in Berlin. War's over. Hitler capped himself. That's an oversimplified version of it, but there's a much easier way to go about things. So, I mean, if I'm China, and you're looking at our $27 trillion defense network, or, what if we just cut this bat open? Like,
right.
There's 2 ways to go about it, right? It's like, I don't know, man. So I don't know. That's my argument for it. It's, yeah, well, I hope I haven't scared you off from coming on this podcast again with my conspiracies. I'd
love to be back on. We'll talk about anything, dude.
Fuck yeah, man. Yeah. It's some people are very they're like nervously sweating.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
I like to just be truthful, and that's the point of it. It's just like, hey, this is what's really happening.
What's going on?
Yep.
This is the thing that's happening. Is I don't know, man. It's like that's what I try to do though. Is I have my own opinions on things and how crazy things are, but to me, reality is so much more insane than fantasy and fiction that you don't really need to make anything. I mean, again, when the head of CIA counterintelligence says, hey, did you kill JFK? The agency's a big mansion and I haven't been in every room. It's like, what the hell did you just say? Like, that's insane. And I don't know, man. That's what I try to do on this podcast, and some people take it as you're crazy, and that might be true. But some people get very uncomfortable when I start going down that road.
Yeah, there's a phrase I learned from a Navy SEAL friend of mine. Is it true? And it's a way to wrestle the subconscious, but I love applying it to everything right now. So it's like, is it true that there is a new virus that has never touched the world before? Yeah, I'll buy that. That's true. Is it true that Cuomo sent sick patients from hospitals with COVID back to nursing homes? Yeah, that's true. Is it true that the death tolls in those nursing homes skyrocketed around the same time? Yeah, that's true. So yes. See, that's the whole film, dude. Is Liberty Lockdown? Is that right there? Is it true? It's like, yes, okay. Then at the end of the is it trues, it's, well, therefore, this man is evil.
And then that's when all of a sudden there's it's no racist.
Yeah, right.
It's like you just walked them through it.
Where's that Chrome plugin again?
Where's exactly. This is why black people can't talk about COVID. It's what the fuck, man? If you really want to red pill America, that's what you would do. Is you would somehow hack the tickers on CNN and MSNBC. You would just replace white with black Jews.
Yep.
African Hasidic Jews. That's how you'd red pill America. But yeah, man, it's.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
Absolutely,
appreciate it. Yeah,
thanks for coming on, man. If you can't tell, I just kind of like running my mouth and seeing what sticks, and not everything sticks. Some people are like, "That was fun. Never contact me again," and I'm like, "Understandable." Yeah.
I get it. I'm used to it.
I'm like, respect. I mean, I guess, but respect. And some people you just get outright no's from. I contacted the office of George W. Bush, and I got a flat out no. And I was like, hey, I
appreciate those stances, right?
Yeah.
Versus this is a big mansion and it has and I don't know every room or whatever.
Yeah, just tell me to go screw myself.
Yep.
There's sorry, we'll wrap this up in a minute, but there's nothing I like more when the response isn't like I appreciate the no. Like I do appreciate that a lot more than a ghost or a weird dance around. What I appreciate even more is when they say, what is your audience reach and can I link my company? And I'm just like, I love that even more because it's like they're just staring at you in the face and saying, can I make money off this? And like the answer is no, my podcast isn't big enough, but I'm like, I respect that. Like that's not, there's no foreplay. It's straight up like, can I cash in? And I'm like, I cannot. But in a year I might be able to. And they're like, email me in a year. And I'm like, I respect that. That's soulless,
right,
but I respect that cold calculus. But
I love it.
Yeah, man. Well, hey man, thanks for having me on. And
thanks for having me on.
I've got 1.8 thousand subscribers, so I'm not sure there's a whole lot I can do for you. But
no, dude, it's 1.8 thousand that can get a little more truth.
Hell yeah,
that's how it is.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I'll link all of your stuff. Any shout out you can give this podcast, please do.
For sure, man. I'm going to post it in my stories. Yeah.
Thanks, man. That would be awesome because it's as you, if you can't imagine, it's what I say gets shadow banned. I mean, who could have guessed that, right?
Yeah.
Who could have guessed?
We'll use some nondescript clips on my social to get it out there.
Just say. I don't know. Just completely give it a clickbait progressive title.
Yeah.
Be like LGBTQ guy pets a puppy, and like, well,
I love it. Yeah. You know what's funny is that there's an Instagram trust score. Did you know that? It's called a trust score, and that's internally what their algorithm decides. And then there's people that get involved when they manually review your content for shadow bans and those kinds of things. And your score either goes up or down depending on your engagement or the type of content that you're posting. If it's far-right conspiracy theories, then your trust score goes down. And then Elon Musk, do you remember this a couple months ago during the middle of the pandemic and right before the hoopla with the election? He was saying, hey, I'm going to establish this website that's AI-based that analyzes all of the media reporters and all of the media outlets and gives them a trust score. It fact-checks every single thing that they say on air or every single thing that they write, and you can actually see if they're spewing bullshit or not. But at that point, there was the white dude, right? And all of a sudden it became racist. It became hate speech. But yet big tech, Instagram has a trust score.
It's just social credit score is what it is, which is directly,
that's exactly
directly
right
from China. And it's, I mean, I know I'm pushing it. I got 1 minute left, but I mean, that's again, when you realize what is COVID makes it so you can only shop at a couple stores, Amazon, right? Walmart.
Yeah.
When everything's there, and then you only have a couple big tech companies, we are not that far away from your trust score is inadequate to shop on Amazon. And now they have much more smoothly and complexly than Stalin or Hitler could ever have dreamed of. They have now denied your ability to food and water based on things you said.
Here's a curious question. Maybe we can stop with this because I don't know the answer, but it's fun to think about. What if there was a world that existed with no Facebook?
You know,
what would happen?
I think we could do that. I think with a couple, just like Germany and Silesia and the power plant. Actually, you know what? Whatever I was going to say, I'm sure will be taken as inciting violence. So I'm just going to, just not going to say it.
I'm only asking a what if question when it comes to servers. That's what I'm asking.
I'm just saying, can those things withstand a certain overpressure from a nuclear weapon? You know, I'm not telling you what to do, everyone, but I'm just saying, how strong are those walls? It's. Your Honor, I said that as a joke, and I've never met this man in my life. Rick Jordan put that idea in my head. This is
brother. Thanks, my man.
I identify as a black transsexual. No one can criticize me. Thanks for having me, or thanks for coming on, Jordan. Rick Jordan.
You bet, bud.
All right, my man.
Thanks.
Take care, buddy.